In order to get this NHS UK contract, Palantir will have to debate. Let's talk about it. So the UK NHS contract has come under some controversy due to a recent article from the Financial Times showing that there's a consortium of other companies in the UK that would be challenging Palantir to get this contract. Now, Palantir has been the front runner for this contract for about a year now, primarily because of what they were able to do in December 2020 with COVID vaccine distribution. The UK afforded them a $34 million contract for 2 years because of what Palantir was able to show in terms of the efficiency and effectiveness with distributing vaccines. As a result of the partnership with the NHS, there were certain hospitals in the UK that actually reduced their backlogs by 28%, backlogs being the amount of people that had to wait to get an appointment or a surgery or whatever it may be, because Palantir was more effective in the hospitals that it was allocated within. So this brings up the question, a company that within 2 years has fundamentally digitally transformed certain aspects of the healthcare system, that is looking to overhaul its pretty broken healthcare system over the past decade, why wouldn't that company get the deal? Why wouldn't that company get the contract, given they've shown for the past 2 years they can get the job done? This is where we get into the political controversies that Palantir has. Obviously, Palantir is co-founded by Peter Thiel, who was a supporter of Donald Trump, and there are people that just don't like Peter Thiel. They don't like Trump, and they also believe that Palantir is an evil spy data company that is trying to manipulate the world's data and sell it and do bad things. Now, not only is all of that further from the truth because it doesn't actually look into what Palantir's technology is doing, doesn't look to the fact that Palantir has helped the World Food Program, has helped human trafficking, has helped in a variety of different industries because their technology is that good. And you look at things in the healthcare industry, like Cleveland Health Clinic, Tampa Bay General Hospital, Cardinal Health, Palantir has shown they can situate themselves within different academic and actual surgical institutions in order to help those companies and those hospitals do the job that they need to do. This consortium of other companies has basically been fueling propaganda around Palantir, lying about what they do, manipulating the actual truth about what the company is supposed to be able to do with data, and has been convincing people that they are not the right company to protect data for the UK. It's funny because the entire COVID vaccine distribution was managed by Palantir, so one could argue that the most sensitive of sensitive data when we have the world's most horrible pandemic being managed by one company would lend you to believe that maybe that company can manage other types of data in less harsh situations for the entire NHS. Now, the interesting thing about this debate that will be happening March 15th at an AI and data analytics conference in the UK is that the head of UK Palantir, whose name is Lewis, will be going against Corey Kreider, who is the head of Foxglove, which is a media company based out of the United Kingdom that is funded by none other than George Soros. George Soros originally held Palantir shares, but he sold out of his shares primarily because he did not like Donald Trump, does not like Peter Thiel, and there's obviously a lot of things you can say about George Soros, but he is not a fan of Palantir. So he funds media organizations to spread the propaganda that he wants to spread out into the world, and Palantir is one of those companies that he has never really enjoyed, which is why he has funded Foxglove to be able to put out more and more information, more and more news, scholarship, whatever you want to call it, that is bad for Palantir. Now, this debate is going to be very interesting, and the reason I say it's interesting is because I come from a professional debate background, and I wanted to talk a little bit about what it means to win a debate. When you are trying to win a debate, you are not trying to have the most precise and contextual argument that is logically congruent. Now, that's a good thing to have, but in my experience with debate, most of the time, if you can't get the audience to believe in your argument, it doesn't matter how correct you are. And this is just the nature of what it means to be a human being. I mean, we are attracted to things that are more sensational by nature. We are attracted to headlines more than the actual article. And I believe Palantir has a leg to stand on, many legs to stand on when it comes to the arguments for why they don't steal data, why they don't manipulate data, and why they actually produce outcomes that are helpful. The question in this debate for Lewis is going to be, can he contextualize the arguments in a meaningful way that allows an audience that is probably already going to be hostile towards Palantir to be more friendlier towards Palantir? Lewis is not playing with house money here. He's going to be talking to a crowd that might care about data, analytics, and all the technical things Palantir can do, but they're in the UK. I mean, it's on home turf. You're going to be much more persuaded to protect citizens and make sure their data is confidential. And if you've got one group of people that are very loud about why this evil company from the United States that once supported Donald Trump is bad for citizens' data in the UK, then he's got a lot of work to do to change other people's opinions. If I was Lewis and I was approaching this debate, I would contextualize my arguments down to two things: Number one, what is Palantir actually doing that other companies cannot do? And if I can identify a moat within the technology that is so fundamentally differentiated from what other companies are doing, then I think there's a better shot to convince people that their data is protected within a company that is doing something different than other companies with their data. For example, this consortium of people that are challenging Palantir said that they've been supplying IT services to the UK for the past 30 years. Well, why haven't you fixed the problem then? Why does the NHS suck if you've been providing IT services for the past 30 years? Obviously, you didn't have something like the ontology. You didn't have something like Foundry. You didn't have something that could reduce backlogs by 28% within the past couple months. I mean, you didn't have the things that were necessary to get the job done. I think if Lewis can really identify what are those things and explain them in plain language, not technical terms, then a lot of people will start to understand at least why Palantir is even in the bidding for this contract. The second approach I would have to this debate would be really simple. If you care about the citizens of your country and their health, then you should also care about actually solving their problems. Meaning, it's not a question of explaining the tech or the moat behind you as a company in comparison to other companies. Now it's a question of, do you care about people's health or not? I mean, there's got to be certain rhetoric that Lewis puts out there, like, do you want people to die because bureaucracies within administrations inside of hospitals are too late on filing paperwork? Like these are the questions that I would be putting out there, and I would be pinpointing the very specific problems that exist within the NHS, and Lewis, because he's based in the UK, probably knows all about this, and then highlighting why these things can't be solved by other competitors, and why in order for them to be solved, in order for the NHS to have a fundamental digital transformation, you need one company that has an actual system to solve the problem. You can't have too many cooks in the kitchen. You can't have 5 different companies providing 5 different pieces of software. You need one killer to get the job done, and until you get the job done, the NHS will be broken as it has been for the past decade. And that's not me saying that. That's everyone that has commented on my YouTube videos over the past months from the UK saying that the NHS sucks, their healthcare system sucks, and they need to have a better solution, which is why they're willing to pay a company $580 million in the first place. Now, how is he going to deal with Corey? I don't know much about Corey, but if she's the director of Foxglove, obviously she has some opinions, and it's going to be very interesting to see how she plays this debate. Is she going to be shrewd? Is she going to be complex? Is she going to be intricate with her analysis, or is she going to flat out say that a company that has a founder that supports Donald Trump and his values that are unethical, for example, in her words, means that we shouldn't support that company? Like, what is her approach going to be? If I was Lewis, I would be very careful at making sure I identify and I'm prepared for every single approach she can go. We've seen articles written by Foxglove. We've seen people that have put out different media pieces on Palantir and how they are killing people with the use of their data. All of these things matter, and you've got to be ready to attack it from different angles. Every single angle that she may go would require a different response, but the one universal response, or the universal question I would ask her, if I get to ask questions in this debate, would be, do you have an alternative piece of technology that can actually solve the problem? Because if you don't, shut the f up. And it's just that simple. Like, at the end of the day, if someone's gonna be yelling all these crazy things about you, can you solve the problem? And if you can't solve the problem, then you can't really talk. You can complain all you want, you can scream this, scream that, but if you're not getting the job done, you're not solving the problem. Now, I wouldn't be as explicit about shut the F up in the actual debate, because you probably don't want to say that. That's what it should feel like. The audience should feel like this person has no idea what they're talking about because they don't understand technology, they understand ideology, and ideology is not the same as technology. Technology is what solves problems. Ideology is what allows people to be clouded in their judgment and never get out of their dogmatic conceptions on how the world operates. The number one way that Palantir wins this debate is if Lewis has some dog in him. I'm talking woof, woof, bark, bark. That was a bad bark, but nonetheless, Tristan's laughing in the back. But you've got to have some dog in you, bro. There were many times I should have lost debates in my career when I was debating, but I just had a little bit more dog in me. The other person was better, but I beat them because I had more passion, I had more emotion, I made my argument make more sense. I didn't go for every argument, I went for 1 or 2 that really mattered. And I think Lewis is gonna have to do the same thing here. Ultimately, I don't think this debate decides the contract, but it definitely decides public opinion and perception of this contract. And you gotta win the public perception if you want to win these deals. This is one of those moments where he's gonna have to be trained and ready to be a dog. Sorry about the plane, but this is the point. If he's a dog, he can get people on his side, he can show he's ruthless, not that like typical like American cockiness, and he's from the UK, so I don't think he's gonna show any of that, but more so this idea of, look, we're good, we're better than everybody else, and we have a reason to be good, and we have a reason to be better than everyone else, and we didn't distribute the entire vaccines for this whole damn country if we were spying on people's data. And if he can come out with that energy, that tenacity, ask those rhetorical questions that really makes the audience think, how are they going to have an answer to that question? Then I think he has a better shot of winning. At the end of the day, I think this is all theater. This is basically a big movie that's playing out in front of us, and I think the NHS has already decided who they want to give this contract to, but they're trying to make sure public perception is in the right place when they officially announce it, because there will be pushback. And in order to mitigate that pushback, they need to know that the company they're giving it to is the company that can actually get the job done and do it in a meaningful way. So let's see what happens. Excited to see this debate.